Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the ZUCast. My name is Alex.
And I'm Kelly, the editor.
Kelly's back! Yay!
I'm back. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're back.
You guys liked me so much that you decided to have me back. And I begged you to not have me back. So here I am.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, it's been a while. We've had a lot of stuff happen during this time. E3.
E3 happened. I was there.
You were there. I'm really jealous because you got to go to Disneyland and do all the cool things. Tell me everything.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get all into that very, very, very soon. But first, we just got to kind of give a little layout of what's going on the podcast.
Sure, let's talk about that. We're going to kick things off with Hyrule Away from Hyrule, the board games, which is going to be done by our pal Randy. All I'm hoping for here is just a shout out to the most important game in the Zelda timeline, the one that makes Breath of the Wild make sense. Zelda Monopoly.
Zelda Monopoly.
You bet. And if you do not know what I mean, go watch Polygon's Unraveled video that Brian Gilbert did. Just watch it. And that whole part will make sense.
Oh, but no.
Monopoly's important, Kelly.
I'm sure it's important, but...
How would you beat Ganon if you couldn't pass go?
Pass and go is very important.
It is. Also collecting $200, which I actually did today.
Nice. Next up after that, we've got the community news, which is going to be done by Realm and TheZeldaAnn, our dynamic duo.
Next up, after the community news, we have Shona, who has been part of Zelda Universe for the last decade, talking about why a particular Zelda game deserves a remake. And it's one that I don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah, just wait till you hear her points. I was on the fence too, but after I edited her segment, I was like, you know what, Shona, I got you, girl. After Shona's segment, Realm's Realm is back, and he's going to give us some insight on some ideas for crossovers for Zelda games.
Oh, you mean like that new game that just came out last week, Cadence of Hyrule?
Exactly like Cadence of Hyrule. That's actually what inspired it.
Hey, look at that.
Then after that, the credits, done by Eden, probably.
And then lots of bloopers by us because we are ridiculous.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. No matter how good the hosts are, there's gonna be bloopers.
But you know what? It's fine. We're here for it. We're just gonna have a good time. And that's what's important. Also, a lot of these segments might have been recorded before E3.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be a little bit out of date. Oops.
It happens.
Sorry. We wanted to record our host stuff after E3.
It's very important that we did, because we would have missed a big reveal.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff. But before we jump into the Nintendo stuff, I want to hear everything about E3 for you. What was that like? That was your first E3, right?
It was my first E3. It was amazing. I didn't really know what to expect, to be completely honest. I've only ever gone to like Anime Detour or Convergence, things like that, anything like kind of those cons, I guess you would call it. But I didn't really know what to expect with E3, but it soared over all of my expectations. It was so much fun. It was amazing. It was a lot of work.
It's always just insane amounts of work.
Oh yeah, I was just so overwhelmed with the amount of just stuff that they had. They were showing that Mario and Sonic Olympics, and they had an entire rock wall in the middle of the floor that you could climb. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before.
That is very E3, and I'm here for it. Did you get to play it?
I did. I played it with Mary.
Is it fun?
And we had so much fun, actually.
I'm so happy. When they announced that game, I was just like, yes! I need more of the Olympic Games.
I honestly wasn't sure about it at first, but once we played it, I was like, yeah, I like it. It's kind of like Mario Party, but without the board game aspect. We did get to play Link's Awakening.
I'm so jealous. I missed it.
It was so cute. The little characters, they almost looked like they were like a claymation kind of movement and everything like that. It was adorable. Even when you were walking around on the screen, like the corners would blur, and then once you walk towards it, it would come into focus, which I thought was really unique.
That's so rad, because like I've been a huge fan of that art style since that first reveal trailer, and I thought it was adorable and it was so on board. Did they let you do any of the like dungeon mixing like at the end of the trailer, or was it just like a particular demo?
No, it was pretty set on a particular demo. We just kind of walked around the town. You woke up. I think it was the very beginning. It's been a long time since I played Link's Awakening, but you just kind of woke up and you walked around. You found your sword. You fought some enemies. I got to a dungeon, but by the time I like started getting into the dungeon, my demo was over.
Rip.
But it was adorable, and that's all that matters.
It was. Honestly, I streamed the direct at work, and there were a couple moments that I was like super jazzed on. The Sonic one was great. Link's Awakening was great. I'm surprised we still don't have a release date for Luigi's Mansion, even though that's still 2019 slated. Animal Crossing also looks really great.
There was another game that was kind of teased and announced. It might not even be that big of a deal, but it was a sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, no big deal. That's fine.
Yeah, nah, no big deal.
Honestly, I watched the reactions from the ZU stream, and y'all were freaking out. I was just sort of like, wait, what? What? It did not hit me nearly as hard, because I was like, I'm not surprised, because I knew they were working on something.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised because I didn't expect a sequel for Breath of the Wild to come out so soon. I was going to be expecting it in like maybe 2 more years or something like that.
Honestly, I was expecting it to be more, but then again, during our podcast meeting a couple days ago, someone made the point, they're gonna be literally using the exact same mechanics and system that Breath of the Wild has. They already have a world set, they have the mechanics pretty much set. At this point, they're fine-tuning and adding more story things.
Yeah, and I mean, they did say that it's going to be, quote-unquote, darker than Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask.
So that I'm super hyped on, because if it's gonna be darker than Majora's Mask, yo!
I'm reading into it a little bit, and I'm predicting that it's going to be underground. It's going to be under Hyrule.
That would be cool. I'm very surprised, but I am very, very excited. Anything like darker than Majora's Mask means that we're gonna be in for a treat.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait.
I'm so excited too, because like Majora's Mask had like apocalypse, death, like literally the end of the world. If you can top that for darkness, yo.
You're doing something right.
It's going to be a big deal. I am sufficiently hype, and that means I need to plan on going next year. Anyway, let us actually begin our podcast instead of ranting for however many minutes it is on just E3 stuff. Let's get to the world of board games about Hyrule.
When you think of The Legend of Zelda, you think of high-adventure narratives set in a gripping and immersive world. You think of crazy characters, intricate puzzles, and a whole lot of sub-items. But The Legend of Zelda is too big to be contained by mere video games, and it is launched out into the physical meat space realm to be enjoyed by players around the dinner table. Welcome to Hyrule Away from Hyrule. I'm Randy, your host. In this segment, I'd like to chat about how The Legend of Zelda translates to other game worlds and other media, and examine some broader segments of the Hyruleverse. Today I'll be talking about board games, and all of which have carried the Zelda name. To start, we go back to 1986, where the Hyrule Fantasy is made in Japan. This pre-Namco Bandai published game played on a replica of what looked like the overworld map from the original game. There were 4 differently colored links, all competing for items, heart containers, and Triforce fragments, and you would face enemy carts with dice, go through labyrinths, and fight bosses. If there's such a thing as a port of a video game into a board game, this is about the closest you can get outside of Ticket to Ride. In the US, renowned board game maker Milton Bradley, who is now part of Hasbro, put out their own Legend of Zelda tabletop. Made back in 1988, it featured a 6-room design, each themed after different landscapes within Hyrule. You collect heart chips, find key items, and fight off monsters. To progress between rooms requires the key item, so you'll kind of bounce around until you find it. And at the end you fight Ganon and roll to save Zelda. While not as much of a port as Hyrule Fantasy, quote unquote, this is more a game in the spirit of The Legend of Zelda, while being an actual board game. But Hyrule Fantasy was not Bandai's only Zelda board game. The Triforce of the Gods, also known as A Link to the Past, received a similar treatment. This one claims to be more similar to the video game, even allowing players to, quote, learn how to play the game. Up to 3 players can explore the Hyrule overworld and attempt to clear through dungeons and all of that good stuff. It's a bit hard to find specifics on this title. It seems incredibly rare even for a Japan-only title. You can definitely find a lot more people discussing it over at BoardGameGeek.com if you're more interested to see what all is in there. Mattel is one of the largest board game companies in the world and has had their own licensed Zelda game. While the Zelda license has predominantly been a Hasbro/USAopoly series, The Legend of Zelda Uno serves as one of the few competing products. Like Super Mario Uno, Zelda Uno is the same card game you love with a couple of twists. In the case of our favorite franchise, a unique Wild Triforce card appears. When you play, you choose a color. The next player must play that color, but only if their card has the Triforce on it. Otherwise, they must draw 3 cards. The Triforce symbol appears on other Wild Triforce cards, and cards numbered 3, 6, and 9 of each color. USAopoly, who I mentioned earlier, makes licensed Monopoly games, but not Monopoly proper. But they also have a number of Legend of Zelda related games, not just Monopoly. In The Legend of Zelda Clue, Ganondorf has stolen the Triforce and is threatening to overtake Hyrule. However, a prophecy states that one will arise to defeat Ganondorf. It is up to the players to find out who possesses the prophesized power, what item will foil Ganondorf's plan, and where his secret base is hidden. All of the different rooms in Clue are remade into parts of the general Hyrule overworld map. It's hard to tell where in the timeline this game takes place, as the parts of Hyrule are in altogether a new order. Combined with the rotating possibility of heroes, I would have to place it somewhere just before The Legend of Zelda Monopoly, but more on that later. The game features a number of unique items, including a bomb chew, boomerang, master sword, all in these tiny little pewter figures. These are also the items that might be used to defeat Ganondorf. The bomb chew might defeat Ganondorf. Also, it features 2 new mechanics. The boss encounter deck is drawn when stepping on or rolling a question mark icon. Any boss you draw is automatically defeated and you gain its powers. But if you draw the 8th boss, Ganondorf, you are knocked out of the game. Each of the 6 playable characters also has a unique once-per-game ability to help differentiate them from each other. The Legend of Zelda has also been immortalized on the ancient chessboard. Link and Zelda are the king and queen of the light side, where Ganondorf and Twinrova serve as the counterparts on the dark side. GameStop has an exclusive version of this that changes the heroes from a brilliant gold to a more somber silver. There's also a Zelda Yahtzee, and it's Yahtzee, but this time it's dressed with rupee-colored dice in a treasure chest container. It's still Yahtzee. Another Japan exclusive released in 2011, The Legend of Zelda Trump features different artwork from 4 different games as part of a 25th anniversary celebration. It's really just a collectible poker deck, but Trump itself has a very specific set of rules using poker. Speaking of which, in 1986 there was a promo poker deck for the original game. It's hard to find, but it is out there. But finally, there's Zelda Monopoly, made by USAopoly. As Polygon's Brian David Gilbert suggests, this is perhaps the game that reunites the 3, if not more, timelines back into a single, unified timeline. It is the long-off prequel of Breath of the Wild and explains why names and items from all the different timelines coexist in this one world. Players presumably take the form of different gods and goddesses, competing to collect various locations and properties from Hyrule in order to put them all back together. The game features tokens like the Triforce, Hylian Shield, and other weapons. Rupees are of course your currency, and the railroads are 4 different modes of transportation from throughout the series. The game features areas from all over the Zeldas as buyable plots, including the Elemental Sanctuary from Minish Cap, the Lorule Castle from Link Between Worlds, Clocktown, Skyloft, Temple of Time, all of them are there. And just for the heck of mentioning it, you can also find tons of jigsaw puzzles featuring various art of The Legend of Zelda. My personal favorite is a double-sided puzzle that features the Link to the Past overworld on one side and the Dark World on the other. Now, it is doubtful that this will be the end of Zelda board games and card games for the foreseeable future. I expect to see many more. For my hopes, I would like to see the following licensed mashups. Wind Waker Catan, a water temple-themed escape room puzzle game. Zelda Flux, Dungeons and Gleeox, Ticket to Ride: The Spirit Tracks, a Link's Awakening themed pandemic where instead of viruses over the world, you're containing nightmares from spreading over the island of Caholen. And finally, a Majora's Mask style Arkham/Eldritch horror. Maybe Betrayal at House on the Hill. I would be okay with that. So here's to playing around a table with your friends. Hopefully one of these has inspired you to go and add another game to your collection. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me on this segment. If you're interested in more sensible chuckles, feel free to follow me on Twitter at RandyMarrGames, that's M-A-R-R, and keep an eye out for my news articles on ZeldaUniverse.net. Thank you for listening, and now back to the rest of the podcast.
Thanks, Randy. I honestly think that a Majora's Mask Betrayal House on the Hill mashup would be awesome.
I am so on board with that. I am such a huge fan of Betrayal.
Me too.
It's one of my favorite games, and that was actually a game that I bonded very quickly with my girlfriend. Because Betrayal is a game that very few people know about. Basically, Betrayal at House on the Hill is a game where you and a couple other people are exploring this old house that you can find different items and omens and events in many different rooms that are actually randomized every time you play, which is really cool. And as you're going and finding omens, every time you find one, you have to roll these dice that some have like blank sides and other stuff to roll higher than the amount of omens on the board. The moment you fail to roll higher than the amount of omens on the board, you then move into the second phase of the game where a haunt begins and one person in the party is turned into a traitor, and then the actual win conditions of the game are revealed. There is so much replayability in the game. No game is the same, and it's so much fun, but Majora's Mask really fits in that mold. I would be wondering how many haunts you could do with a Majora's Mask crossover, because there's like, the original game has like 50 different haunts. I don't know how many you could do with Majora's Mask.
It would be cool if there was like a theme to, like, instead of maybe a haunted house, it's like Clock Town, or like Clock Town when the moon hits, so it's like all abandoned and destroyed. Something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be Zelda in the form of the gameplay specifically or the outcome, but it could be just like a Zelda themed type board game.
I'm just wondering how the haunts would fit into that theme.
Yeah, one can hope.
Either way, super cool thing with that. I actually haven't really played any of the major board games that are like themed from Zelda that aren't just like Monopoly or chess.
That's true.
Anyway, let's bring it over to Anne and Realm to talk all about the cool things that are happening in the community.
It's finally summertime on ZU again.
Unless you live in the southern hemisphere.
Oh, yeah. What a strange planet we live on.
You said it.
Anyway, hey everyone, I'm RealmWings, or just Realm for short.
And I am TheZeldaAnn, or just Ann for short.
And this is your ZU Community News, highlighting the best of the Zelda Universe forum community and beyond.
It's been a hot minute, so we've got a lot to talk about. Let's stop wasting time.
Yes, ma'am. Perhaps the biggest news item on our list for this edition of the Community News is the start of the inaugural ZU Olympics. The ZU Olympics is a forum-wide competition series in the same vein as the old Clan Wars. The event will run throughout much of the summer.
Or winter, if you're below the equator.
And we'll see 3 teams of randomly assigned ZUers, Team Lion Pietro, Team Bad Guy Ty, and Team Dangerous Cody, competing in events of all kinds, including some creativity contests and some gaming showdowns. Sign-ups are open as of reporting, so if you would like to join in on the fun, just post your intent to join within the sign-up thread in the Olympic Stadium Board new ZU Olympics section. Solcitor, who has officially changed his username back from Goron Mario, is both the mastermind and the GM of the ZU Olympics, so if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to him. Will you be signing up, Anne?
Nope.
Aww.
There have been 2 ZUers of the month since we last read the news. June's is Guardian Finn, ZU's favorite Finn living in Germany, while May's was... Oh! It was you, Realm.
Yep.
That must have been quite an honor.
It really was. I honestly felt really honored that even though I've only been here a year, people already consider me to be a valuable part of the community.
That's wonderful. Well, I guess I'll do the honor of reading off an example from among the warm and fuzzies that the community had for you. This one comes from TrueEdge67, who said, Realm is such a talented and kind person, and the site is lucky to have him. You've been a great friend and a great co-mod, and I'm happy to have met you. You've always been super nice to everyone here, and always willing to lend someone a hand. You've shown you care a lot about this place, and you do your best to make it a great place. I've always appreciated that about you, and it's why you were a no-brainer for my co-mod. I knew you would be a great asset to our board and the forum team, and you haven't disappointed. I'm proud of you, Realm. Keep being the amazing person you are.
Aw, thanks, Drew. I hope, and for that matter, intend to, be here for many more years to come, and will keep doing my very best to help ZU be what it is.
I sure hope you do stay for many more years. You've been an amazing co-host with me, and it's been fun doing this with you.
Aw, thanks. You've been an awesome co-host too. Anyway, let's not forget about June's ZUer of the month. Here's what Romano-British Medley had to say about Guardian Finn. Finn, I'm so happy for you. You so much deserve this. ZU is a livelier place because of you. Like others have already said, you're an amazing father and husband. Every day I am in awe of how you managed to do all of this. You're one of the best and closest friends I've ever had in my entire life. Thank you so much.
Wow, another wonderful ZUer of the month. It's so heartwarming to hear about all the lovely people on the forums and the friendships they have with each other.
Does that mean you want to become active on the forums now?
Nope.
Aww.
Congratulations again to you, RealmWings, and to Guardian Finn.
Thanks, Anne. ZU has seen a veritable great flood of new members join in the weeks since E3, and in case I've missed any of you, I just want to welcome each and every one of you newbies to this amazing community. It's great to see you all getting involved in the Zelda section and even beyond.
Along those same lines, last time we reported that the Newbie Chit Chat in Newbie Central had been refreshed with a clean new thread, but contrary to all our expectations, that hadn't actually happened yet by the time the episode was released. Well, it's officially happened since then, so go check out the new thread and join the discussion, regardless of how long you've been a ZUer.
Yeah, feel free to join us. Whoa, deja vu. In the category of news that we don't get to report on very often, a couple of forum boards have undergone name changes recently. Perhaps most notably, the Future Zelda board has been bumped to the top of the Zelda section, and is now known as Breath of the Wild Sequel and Future Zelda. This change is not permanent, and is meant to promote discussion of the Breath of the Wild sequel that was teased at the end of this year's Nintendo E3 Direct. This seems to be working, as activity levels of the board have skyrocketed higher than Hyrule Castle in the trailer.
And in case you've been frantically searching for the serious discussion board over the past month or two, that has reverted to a name that I've been told hasn't been used in about 10 years. Internet Serious Business.
That name is hilarious.
Right? Nothing serious ever happens on the internet.
Anyway, in addition to the Breath of the Wild sequel and future Zelda board, that's a mouthful, another Zelda section board has seen a massive surge in activity since the sequel trailer dropped, Zelda Theorizing. Yes, our community of lore theorists is at it again, trying to predict the truths behind the game using only what Nintendo has given us to work with in the teaser trailer. And if the theorists have anything to say about it, that trailer actually packed in quite a lot of information. So if you, too, think you know what really went on in the trailer and what it means for the rest of the game, feel free to jump into Zelda Theorizing board and make your case. Pro tip, always be prepared with actual examples to back up your claims.
In other news, over in Community Central, we have a long-running thread called the Community Question of the Week, in which one of the board's mods poses a random open-ended question to the community each week. Recent examples include, is there a celebrity that everyone seems to love, but you just can't stand? And, if you were stranded on a deserted island and could have any 3 things with you, electronics excluded, what would they be? Realm, what 3 non-electronic things would you have with you?
I'd bring a map, a pencil, and paper, because I really like drawing, as many of you know, and I can basically entertain myself by staring at a map for hours. What about you, Anne?
Well, for me, I would bring duct tape, knife, and rope. I know, I'm boring with all my survival stuff, but you can do basically anything with duct tape.
I think that I, unlike you, have basically resigned myself to the fact that I'm going to die on this desert island. Anyway, in general gaming board news, admin Pietro has posted a poll and discussion asking the community to vote on their top 3 games shown at E3 2019. As reporting, the Breath of the Wild sequel is, unsurprisingly, in the lead by almost 3 times as many votes as the next highest game, which is actually a tie between the remakes of Final Fantasy VII and Link's Awakening. Other games in the running include Animal Crossing, New Horizons, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Astral Chain, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and Borderlands 3. The poll and thread are still open, so feel free to make your opinions known in the E3 2019 Best of Show poll thread. Once again, that is in general gaming.
Also in general gaming, moderator Abyss Master continued the decade-old tradition of an E3 bet. This year, he asked people to conclude preemptively whether or not Nintendo would at least confirm the existence of a new version of the Nintendo Switch. Everyone who correctly predicted no has been awarded a Switch-themed banner reading E3 Winner 2019. This year's bet is different from the first few E3 bets in that those who predicted incorrectly did not incur any penalty. Those who guessed wrong in the first couple of bets years ago were actually banned from the forums for a week.
Wow, ZU was a harsh place back then.
Sure sounds like it to me.
Over on the artsy side of ZU, 2 writing contests have wrapped up and another one started since the last podcast episode. April's prompt was The Words Left Unspoken, which CL Bell won by a landslide with her lyrical story, Wisdom of the World. May's contest had the prompt, Until We Meet Again, and 2 first-time entrants took the crown. American Cheesecake 667 for her heartbreaking poem, Blinding Storms and Peerless Beauty.
Hold up 1 second. Hi everybody, this is Editor Kelly, not to be confused with Host Kelly. I just wanted to pop in and correct something. Realm said her when referring to American Cheesecake 667. I don't know where he got this information from, since it clearly says his on the script. Oh well, I'm here to fix things. Anyway, just so you know, American Cheesecake 667, male. It is a he, even though Realm says she. Sorry about that. Anyway, back to the news.
And Link of Time 200 for his bittersweet and soul-crushingly relatable story, logging off for the last time. Congratulations to all winners, and you can check out their entries by searching the Creative Corner board for writing contest results.
The June writing contest is already underway, and by the time you hear this, the voting phase will likely be in progress. The uplifting prompt is, "The day the world ended."
How is that uplifting?
It's not. I was being sarcastic. If it's still open, please cast your vote for your favorite entry. May's contest saw little voter turnout, so we'd love to see more of you get involved. June's creator of the month is graphic designer... What the heck? Realm! How do you keep getting these honors? Do you bribe people?
I don't think I do.
Well, congratulations, nevertheless.
Thanks. Before we go, we actually have a couple of important news items from beyond the forums. First, ZU's sister site, Zelda Wiki, is merging with Zeldapedia, a long-running wiki hosted on fandom by Wikia. The Zeldapedia staff are joining the Zelda Wiki staff, and some resources from Zeldapedia will be available on Zelda Wiki, which will supersede Zeldapedia, which will remain online as an archive. If you're at all confused by what I just said, Zelda Wiki director Tony has written an informational post in the Zelda Wiki board on the ZU forums that should clear things up.
And finally, Zelda Universe will be hosting its annual ZU-a-thon, Zelda for Eternity charity event, this year from August 1st through August 5th. Members from across the ZU staff will be live streaming non-stop Zelda gameplay for the duration of the event in order to raise money for the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. There will also be some very special guests who make appearances over the course of the 5 days, but we can't yet tell you who they will be. So stay tuned to ZU for more details, including the schedule, as we get closer to the event.
Sounds like it'll be a good time. Well, that's about it for this installment of the community news.
Yep, and if you have anything related to ZU and or your life that you want us to announce in next month's community news, please send a private message on the forums to either RealmWings or Ezla Spirit.
Yeah, Anne, you should go on the forums and send one of us a private message.
Nope.
Aww.
I'm TheZeldaAnn.
And I'm Realm.
We'll catch you next time. Journal Realm.
Hey, Kelly.
Yes,
I heard we got some cool things happening on the forum soon, huh?
we sure do. We got something that's called ZU Olympics. This is gonna be the first time we do this. This is gonna be based on the old Clan Wars, and it's gonna be run by a couple of moderators we have. They're gonna assign each person who signs up to one of 3 teams, and these teams are gonna compete in several events over the next couple of months. People should definitely check out the new Olympic Stadium section for more info about this and to be able to sign up. And I will make sure we put a link in the description for you guys.
Yes, it'll be everywhere you listen to this, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully, if I do my job right.
And then we have another cool thing happening, and it's happening in August, and that is our ZU-thon charity event. So we've been doing ZU-thons for a couple years. We started one in 2017 with the Breath of the Wild launch. And our current real major marathon is once a year, we all go to Amanda's place and play Zelda games for 100 hours. Last year we raised about $2,019 for Direct Relief. This year we are going to be raising it for St. Jude. And we're going to be doing that from August 1st through the 5th over on our Twitch channel. It's gonna have a lot of cool people there, a lot of fun games. I will not be there in person, but I am trying to see whether or not my girlfriend and I are gonna be involved in playing a game or something like that. So we'll be sort of there. But we're getting that sort of started. So, if you are interested, check that out because we might have an episode coming out by then, but if not, here is your notification of ZU-thon. So, That's all going to be very fun. Keep up posted on our social medias for all the specific deets on that.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
All right, well, time to bring it back to the podcast. We're gonna throw this over to Shona, and she's going to tell us why she believes that Zelda 2 deserves a remake.
I'm interested in hearing what she says about this. I have opinions about Zelda 2.
Take it away, Shona.
Hi, I'm Shona, and I'm here to talk remakes, specifically the game that I'd love to see remade next. Previous episodes of this podcast have been talking about the upcoming Link's Awakening remake, and there's been a little bit of talk about which other Zelda games should be remade. In an earlier episode, Cody briefly mentioned Zelda 2, and he joked that if it was remade, it might actually be a good game. Now, jokes aside, I completely agree. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, has a lot of potential for a remake. Now, before you hit fast forward on the rest of this segment because you hate on Zelda 2, let's remember that with a remake comes the chance to get rid of all those things that might otherwise put you off the game. One of the main reasons why I think that Zelda 2 deserves another chance is not so much because of its flaws, but because it's one of the most important but least known games in the franchise. What I mean by this is that while most people know about the game, and maybe have even played the first little bit, it's a lot harder to find people who have played it all the way through. You have to remember that it came at a time when there was no established formula for what a Zelda game was, yet it introduced some important Zelda elements, such as giving Link magic for the first time, advanced sword techniques, and the Triforce of Courage itself. But the reason why many people never made it very far in the game is because it's incredibly difficult, and I'll go into that more in a moment. I think that there's two ways that a Zelda 2 remake could work. The first is to stay true to the original gameplay style with some significant updates. For those who haven't played it, Zelda 2 uses the familiar top-down view for the map screen and side-scrolling gameplay for the action scenes, including dungeons. Like the Link's Awakening remake, these graphics could be completely overhauled. I could see the side-scrolling sections in particular looking pretty amazing. Just think about some of the more modern Mario platformers and their gorgeous backgrounds. And with adjustments to combat and difficulty, and improvements to the way that the game gives hints and information, this could work pretty well. However, I personally think that Zelda 2 would be amazing if it was used as the basis for a fully open world 3D title, not unlike Breath of the Wild. The world is huge and its landscapes are varied. For example, there's swamps, grassland, desert, caves, graveyards, and islands, just to name some of the locations. It's also treacherous. You don't have to stray far from the path before you encounter enemies, and you don't always have the safety of a path to follow, which means that you have to get out and explore. And there are several towns, 8 in total. This is one of the areas where I feel a remake could add so much more to the game. The towns are all fairly similar on the NES, due to what was possible with the technology at the time. There's usually an item to find, a new spell to learn, a welcome chance to refill your health and magic, and maybe get a hint too. But imagine that there were more side quests, and more opportunities to learn about the world. One of the complaints I heard about Breath of the Wild was the lack of villages. Well, a Zelda 2 remake in that style could provide a huge world with many vibrant towns. Two of my favourite towns in Zelda 2 are Old and New Kasuto. Old Kasuto is a ghost town, and when Link first arrives, he's attacked by these invisible enemies. New Kasuto is hidden in the forest. It's where the townspeople fled to after their original town was attacked. But a glaring omission from Zelda 2 is maps, especially in the dungeons, as it can be hard to figure out where you are, and there's often backtracking required. Maps are another Zelda staple that would be required if this game was remade, and they would definitely improve the experience. There are also story elements that I'd love to see expanded upon in a remake. Stories in the NES era were fairly limited due to technology, and often more was told in the game's manual than in the game itself. Zelda 2 has a pretty unique story. It's a direct sequel to the first Zelda, and introduces the Triforce of Courage. It begins with Link turning 16 and seeing a mark on the back of his hand. This prompts Impa to tell him all about the third Triforce, and some history about the royal family. This mark on Link's hand is an important part of the series now, and so it would be cool to have a game that goes into more depth about the Triforce and its lore, along with more details about the royal family. Zelda 2 actually explains why all princesses are given the name Zelda. Impa gives Link a quest to place 6 crystals in the palaces of Hyrule in order to break the seal on the Great Palace, where the Triforce of Courage is hidden. So that sounds pretty straightforward, right? However, you have to remember that Link defeated Ganon a few years earlier. Many of Ganon's minions are still around, and they believe that if they kill Link and pour his blood on Ganon's ashes, their master will be revived. So they spread out across the land to find Link, and this means that wherever he goes, he's constantly being harassed by enemies out to kill him. That's why the Game Over screen says, Return of Ganon. And that Game Over screen, man, I love it for the story, and I hate it. Mostly, I hate it, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that, because any of us who have attempted to play Zelda 2 will have seen it many times. It's not an understatement to say that Zelda 2 is a difficult game, and this is one of the areas where it really needs an overhaul. It's a product of its time. Many NES games were difficult and required a lot of practice to overcome. The first Zelda was also pretty difficult, but it was a lot more forgiving. In the first Zelda, and most Zelda games, when you die, you start off close to where you left off, such as at the beginning of a dungeon. Zelda 2 uses a live system, and when you lose all your lives for most of the game, you have to start back at the very beginning. You keep your items, heart and magic containers, and levels, but you lose all of your experience points, and you may have to travel a significant distance to get back to where you were. The only exception is if you get a game over in the final palace, you can restart there. There are a limited number of 1-ups in the game, and they can only be used once, so this means that you should really save them for the absolutely brutal trip to the Great Palace. And there are limited opportunities to recover lost life, apart from the occasional fairy or grinding magic to use the life spell. So I really think that if the game was remade, there needs to be more ways to recover life, and for Link to start closer to where he died. I think a fast travel system would also help. Not only is dying a pain in the butt because of the live system, but you can die so easily. There are a lot of difficult enemies, and learning to navigate the side-scrolling sections takes practice. Even with practice, the game is pretty unforgiving, and it takes just one small mistake and you've taken a significant amount of damage, or you've been knocked into a pit. And unlike most other Zeldas, falling into a pit doesn't just take away one heart, you instantly lose all your life. The difficulty also ramps up incredibly quickly, and I'm sure a lot of players give up before they've even made it through Death Mountain, which is still in the first part of the game. A remake would give the difficulty and margin for error a chance to be retuned. Zelda 2 also has a leveling system. Link gains experience points by killing enemies until he reaches a certain number required to level up either his attack, magic, or life. I personally don't mind this system, but I do think it could also use a retune. It can get a little grindy, and there are quite a few enemies who take away points when they hit you. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if you didn't lose all your experience points when you die. I don't think it would be hard at all to adjust the difficulty and provide a good balance between keeping the gameplay fun while still maintaining a decent amount of challenge. I think Breath of the Wild achieved this really well. And after all, you can't make it too easy. Just think about how satisfying it felt the first time you beat a Lionel in Breath of the Wild. And one thing I'll say, I have actually beaten Zelda 2, and it remains one of the most satisfying and incredible moments of my entire Zelda gameplay experience. But that said, even when I'm well practiced at the game, I do still find it frustrating, and that's mainly because the margin for error is so low. So whether or not Zelda 2 receives a traditional remake, or is used as the basis for more of a spiritual successor, sort of what Breath of the Wild was to the original Zelda, there are a lot of reasons why it should be a candidate for the next remake. After all, it was truly a pioneer of the franchise.
Thanks, Shona. So, if they do a Zelda 2 remake, do you think Bagu and Error are gonna show up again?
I hope so.
I really hope so too, because that was like a staple of Zelda 2.
I feel like most people know about those two characters, and that's all they know about Zelda 2. Like, I think you don't even need to know about Zelda 2, you don't even need to have played Zelda 2, but you have seen those two characters, or at least Error.
Yeah, Error for sure. Bagu was he was a little bit more like hidden just a little bit more.
He was slightly more obscure.
Yeah, either way, those are my two favorite characters from Zelda 2, so if there is a remake, I really hope to see them again.
That would be cool.
I also really hope that they'd keep Dark Link. I mean, I'm sure they would, but that was the first time Dark Link made an appearance in Zelda video games.
That's true. That's where I learned to just crouch and stab at the knees.
Alright, well, we're gonna throw it over to Realm's Realm. He's back again, and he's gonna tell us about some ideas for Zelda crossovers.
Hey everybody, Realm here, and today we're taking a break from talking about boring stuff that no one cares about for something a little bit more fun and speculative. If you're wondering, yeah, I can totally be fun, I'm cool. I've played Larry Boy for the PS3 for God's sake, a surprisingly solid platformer and one of the funnest games out there. Anyway, as you may or may not have heard, this June, a new Zelda spin-off will be releasing called Cadence of Hyrule. The catch is, it's not really a Zelda game, and it's not even being developed by Nintendo. Instead, Cadence of Hyrule is effectively a Zelda-themed version of Crypt of the Necrodancer, the highly popular indie rhythm/procedurally generated dungeon crawler in which you move with the beat of the music. Now, this is a cool thing on its own, but my interest in it is mostly beyond the game itself. Namely, the opportunity that has been opened up for the series to take on new ideas and genres under developers that we would never normally see. This really got me thinking, and so, today, in anticipation of Cadence and of the potential new announcement at E3, I'm going to be talking about 6 games or genres that I think should cross over with Zelda. Now, I'll be leaving out obvious ones that everyone wants, such as Zelda Maker, and ones which have already been done, at least in the community, such as an RTS having been done in Hyrule Total War and Hyrule Conquest. Finally, know that my selections are by no means what I think will happen, nor what's at all feasible, just stuff I think would be cool. So, without further ado, let's get started. To begin, one of my favorite games, Overwatch. Now, this initially may seem like a weird choice, not really seeming to have many connections to Zelda gameplay or setting-wise, but I actually think it could be pretty cool. See, one of the things that I think Hyrule Warriors or potential Hyrule Warriors 2 could do better would be the sense of an epic crossover between characters. Aside from some cutscenes and the single character you choose each game, characters from different eras barely interact and never really fight. A game like Overwatch, or Zelda Watch as I'll be calling it, with its heavy focus on characters and character interactions, could remedy this. Sure, its gameplay would likely be more Hyrule Warriors than Overwatch, albeit somewhat less hack and slashy and a little bit slower, but a more distinct moveset for each character and a focus on character battles could create some really cool crossover moments. For instance, perhaps we're attempting to push a payload, but the other team has a Link who keeps harassing our front line with arrows, so perhaps our close-range Zant players should switch out for Sheik or Impa to sneak up behind him and take him out. In order to account for a likely lower number of playable characters and thus combinations than in the real Overwatch, Zelda Watch could incorporate a set of items unique to each character that would also need chosen, increasing potential strategies. Link could be played with a sword for quick movement but less damage, or a ball and chain for slow movement but high damage. Perhaps to make play with items more dynamic, instead of the system in Overwatch where switching characters resets charge on ultimate abilities, switching items does not reset charge to allow for less impactful dynamic strategies. But let's not get too deep into the logistics of it. I think ultimately it would just be cool to see the characters of the series interacting with each other in unique ways and given distinct playstyles. Next up, a game that's close to my heart, Stardew Valley. Now, as many of you know and judge me for, Twilight Princess is one of my favorite, if not my favorite Zelda game, and in Twilight Princess, there's a cute little quest that gave me this idea. In one of the game's second half dungeons, Snow Peak Ruins, you are ultimately searching for the key to the mansion's bedroom in which a shard of the Mirror of Twilight is kept. There's a nice couple of Yeti who live in the mansion, so naturally you ask them where the key is. There's just one problem. They forgot. That said though, they have some ideas, and end up sending you on several trips, each yielding only foods from Link's hometown of Orden Village, before eventually finding the actual key. Each of these foods is stolen by Yeto, the husband, for his stew, once you return to the part of the mansion that they call home, never to be seen again, except in the stew, I guess. But this got me thinking, what if you could see them again? Link lives in a little farming village, pumpkins growing everywhere, goats being raised in pastures, horses ridden. What if, instead of being a great hero of time or sky or twilight, Link was just the hero of agriculture, I guess? I think that Stardew Valley would be the perfect fit for this type of game. With the addition of some weird Zelda plants, animals, and perhaps people, Stardew Valley could, in my opinion, easily translate into a Zelda game. And while Twilight Princess was the game that sparked this idea, Breath of the Wild has probably brought it closest to fruition, with its far more robust abundance of flora and fauna in the Zelda world than anything ever seen before. What would truly add that Zelda touch would be, however, exploration. Now, Stardew Valley already has combat and exploration to a degree in its mine, in which players work their way down deeper and deeper in search of treasure. But what if this was taken a step further and made into an entire world to be explored? Perhaps one day, instead of hanging around the village and watering plants, Link could set off and explore the world, finding towns at which to buy new farm tools and seeds, monsters to fight and get materials from, and perhaps even dungeons, the ends of which could hold the most ancient and powerful gardening tools of all. It could be a cute, more laid-back Zelda, but still include those elements that make Zelda, well, Zelda. Moving away from this nice, relaxing stuff, let's talk about something a little more action-packed. Now, Majora's Mask and Breath of the Wild indirectly, as well as Skyward Sword more directly, all have ways to replay boss fights or have a boss rush mode. But what if we took that a step further? And what better way to do such a thing than the ultimate boss rush, Monster Hunter? Of course, as some of you probably know, Monster Hunter and Zelda already have a bit of a crossover history in the form of items and outfits, but a true dedicated game featuring all of Zelda's greatest bosses waiting to be conquered in new and interesting ways could be incredibly unique and cool. Stages could be incredibly unique and larger than normal boss arenas from the source games, forcing you to play differently and more dynamically. You'd have to bring your strategies used before, but adapt them with the changes to stages and bosses themselves. I, having a lot less experience with Monster Hunter than any of the other games on this list, have a lot less to say about this one, but basically, in words you've heard already from me and will likely hear several more times, I just think it would be pretty cool. Swinging in the exact opposite direction to an entirely different facet of the Zelda formula, exploration and discovery. Of all of the games I've played, none, in my opinion, yes, even Zelda, does pure exploration and discovery better than Journey. Every corner yields some new and interesting sight, encouraging player exploration, making you want to see what's around that corner or over that ridge, and that exploration is motivated not by reward or action, but by the pure joy of the exploration of the game's world. But even better, perhaps, than your first playthrough of Journey is your second. Now, a quick warning. If you haven't played Journey, skip the next several minutes, or pause here and go play it. It's only about 4 hours, and can be beaten in one sitting if you want. Anyway, the second playthrough. If you've played Journey, you'll know that it ends, after having completed your goal, by putting you back at the beginning. And should you begin again, the entire journey, so to speak, is recontextualized. It's a much more melancholy, reflective experience. Without any dialogue, any actual changes to the world, or your progression through it, the game achieves an entirely different tone. Instead of a game about exploration of a physical world, it becomes one about exploration of memory. Since Zelda is a series that many have already experienced, though that few have fully experienced, as with anything, a Journey-esque game featuring a quilt-like world of pieces of the series stitched together could successfully weave together the themes of both Journey's first and second adventures. For areas that someone has seen and experienced, it would be like their second adventure, full of memories and nostalgia, but for those that they haven't, their first. The world wouldn't be logical, it would be like a dream, flowing seamlessly between the remembered and the imagined, the explored and the uncharted. Nothing but wandering. No battles, items, or story. Just a journey. For our next two games, let's talk strategy. First, more a genre than a specific game or publisher style, a city builder. It would basically be just how it sounds. You guide a small village through time, building amenities, walls to keep out monsters, and farms to feed the people, and update the city with new advancements as time goes on. This is a pretty basic idea in all honesty, and not super developed, but I think it's the kind of game that, especially if it included heavier tower defense-esque elements, could feel right at home in the Zelda universe. Perhaps to make it more Zelda and to add replayability, the player could choose from various locations, such as the valleys, deserts, forests, or mountains of Hyrule, which would change available resources, nearby monsters, and kinds of buildings needed, as well as different races, such as the Zoras or Gorons, which would change buildings and available construction for the appearances of those buildings, as well as the ease with which certain buildings would be built. Mines would be easier for Gorons to build, farms or ranches for Hylians, etc. Perhaps you could even trade with other towns, or eventually cities, for resources plentiful in their region but scarce in yours. Again, this is a little bit undeveloped, but still, in my eyes at least, has promising gameplay opportunities. On a, let's say, grander scale, the next game would be one of Paradox Interactive's particular brand of grand strategy titles, in which, for those who are unaware, you guide an entire country for a number of years, often numbering in the hundreds, declaring war, expanding, creating alliances, managing your economy, and so on and so forth. Follow history as it happened, or, if you'd like, strike out on another path and forge a different future. For all of the complicated histories, wars, and relations between groups in Zelda that we hear about, we never really get to see it. That's what a game such as this would change. Play as Hyrule, or any number of smaller groups such as the Gorons or Zora, or other countries entirely. It established your great nation, increasing your sphere of influence, and taking history into your own hands. Want to see some what-if scenarios? Take the throne of the interlopers during their war with Hyrule and take that which is rightfully yours once and for all. Manage your armies, monarchs, royal marriages, and every other gloriously micromanagey aspect of your nation. Try your hand at various time periods against AI, or perhaps even online with real players. Each nation would have unique units proficient in certain regions, and their own types of ideas and decisions, making each nation unique to play as. Such a game would not be very interesting to everyone maybe, but for someone who finds geopolitics and things like that fascinating, it seems cool to me. So, that's 6 games and genres that I think could be cool crossed over with Zelda. This was a bit of a quick episode, but I kind of wanted to just give some fun ideas for everyone to think about before E3. That said though, just because I think that these would be interesting, doesn't necessarily mean that you do, so I'd like to hear what you think might be cool. Tell me in the YouTube comments, or over on the Zelda Universe forums, where you can find me as my username, RealmWings. Okay, well, that's all the time I've got for today. Until next time, this is Realm for the ZUBC, signing off.
Thanks so much, Realm. I feel like having a Stardew Valley Harvest Moon crossover with Zelda would be pretty cool, pretty fun. Stardew Valley is like the Zelda Harvest Moon, kind of, because you get to dungeon crawl and you get to build a farm and all that fun stuff.
Is there dungeon crawling in Stardew Valley? I've actually never played it.
Oh. Well, you should play it.
I should do that. The way you just was like, oh. Oops.
Moving on. No. I also think that having a Zelda crossover with Age of Empires would be really, really cool.
I would be interested to see how that plays out, because Age of Empires is very much like real-time strategy mechanics, and that's something that like Zelda's never really done. I don't know entirely how that would be played out, but I'm interested in seeing how that would fare.
I would like it just because, like, you could play as a different races. You could play as a Goron or a Zora or Kokiri, whatever you want. And, like, then you build your world, and then you can, like, venture out. It doesn't necessarily have to be, like...
I don't think it needs to follow, like, Zelda's story arcs in that case because of that.
It could be kind of like a Hyrule Warriors where it's just, like, Hyrule Warriors is a hack and slash beat 'em up game. That's what it is. This could be a world building and kind of like a full exploration of like Hyrule itself. I just think it would be really cool to kind of have that dynamic of a very different Zelda game on the same line as Hyrule Warriors.
I think that would be kind of cool.
I think so.
Yeah, it's funny to have this conversation now, especially after Cadence of Hyrule is out, with that crossover with Crypt of the Necrodancer. Have you gotten a chance to play it yet?
I haven't, but I've seen it. I've seen it be played, and it looks so fun, and the beat is so catchy. Have you heard the Gerudo Valley song?
Girl,
my fave.
I am friends with like 4 people who are on that game.
What?
Yeah, so, I streamed the game over the weekend, and actually was able to finish it, because everything's randomized. It's really great. But I am pals, through either events or other reasons with, Family Jewels, or just Jules, Adriana Figueroa, and Michaela Noctegal, aka Miklachu. I met Jules and Adriana through PAX and going to conventions and, hanging out with the guys over at the Runaway Guys, so Tim, John, Emil, Masay, and all that. But I've actually known Miklachu for way longer. Like, we grew up in kind of the same town. We didn't go to the same school, but like we knew each other from basically like school age kinda. So to see her go and like do awesome things is really, really great. So, but they all do amazing stuff on this soundtrack. It's such a great soundtrack.
Yeah, it's fantastic because like when you have a game that's completely different from something like Zelda and Crypt of the Necrodancer, those are 2 very different games. When you mash them together and you just have that inspiration and that workflow, I can't imagine you could create something bad.
Right. Also, now that we've got Nintendo sort of allowing independent developers to do games with their IPs, who's to say that Nintendo can't just give someone F-Zero?
I don't know.
Here are some good indie devs that could probably do a good racing game. Or better yet, partner with the people that do Forza. Like, clearly you've got a good enough relationship with Microsoft.
Yeah, that's true.
That would be kind of neat. But yeah, we unfortunately don't have any feedback this time around. Which
Does that mean I have to put in Cody's feedback song?
Yeah.
Alright, here it is.
Feedback. 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 That's the feedback song.
And it's all your fault that you had to listen to that again. So you can send your feedback to podcast@ZeldaUniverse.net.
You can also leave feedback in the YouTube comments on YouTube or on the forums. And with that is pretty much all the cool things that we have for today on the podcast. So thank you very much for listening. Kelly,
Yes.
where can they find you on the internet?
They can find me on Twitter. I am at Kelly the Editor, KELLYTHEEDITOR. Where can they find you, Alex?
Well, you can find me at Luca_Starks on Twitter and Twitch and the Instagrams. You can also find me on YouTube at Lucastarks without the underscore, because I can't use an underscore on YouTube for some reason, because YouTube is being YouTube, which is always fun. You can also find me at alexrosenberg.net. I do dance things.
Fancy dance things.
Very much so. I'm in a show right now. I've been up for more than 15 hours now.
So I think it's about time to put this podcast to an end and let you get some sleep.
That would be great. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. Hopefully you'll listen to us next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
As a certain angel boy once said, "Sorry to keep you waiting." Let's jump right into the credits. Your hosts this episode were Alex Rosenberg and Keri Timmerman. That is to say, Kelly Timmerman, in Japanese. Randy Marr graced us with an edition of Hyrule Away from Hyrule about tabletop Zelda games. The Right Honorable RealmWings and the unshakable TheZeldaAnn reported the community news. The newest addition to the ZUBC team, who, mind you, is certainly not new to Zelda Universe or even to the ZUCast, Shona Johnson, made her compelling case as to why and how Zelda 2 should be the next classic title to be remade. The omnipresent Realm popped up again for Realm's Realm to offer some ideas for more genre-switching Zelda crossovers in the vein of Cadence of Hyrule. My name is Eden Biskin, and I am the ZUcast's executive producer. Cody Davies, ZU's man of many titles, is the consulting producer. Kelly Timmerman is our head editor. #SaveKelly. We have 3 fantastic peeps who do our PR-ish stuff. Pietro Bucci on the ZU forums, Mary Stowe on ZU's social media outlets, and Megan Negrelli on everything else. Our technical advisor, Joshua Lindquist, makes sure that the podcast doesn't cause ZU to implode, while the dynamic duo of Joshua and RealmWings makes up our graphics team. Elias Thompson. The ZUcast is a production of the ZUBC, a division of Zelda Universe. Each piece of feedback we get from our listeners is like a plate of enduring fried wild greens, prolonging our push through the next production cycle. Here's how you can send us some. By email at podcast@zeldauniverse.net, via internet discussion forum on the ZU Forum's ZUcast 2019 hub thread located in Community Central, or through modern social media, including at Zelda Universe on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as at Zelda Universe TV on YouTube and Twitch. If you're a member of the forums, don't miss out on the ZU Olympics. Sign up right now. And for everyone, mark your calendars for August 1st, which is the start of ZU-thon 2019. With the exception of community news, all of the segments in this episode were recorded prior to this year's E3 conference, which is why there wasn't as much about Cadence of Hyrule or Link's Awakening or the Breath of the Wild sequel, as you were probably expecting. Next month, we'll have more content relating to that stuff. Pinky promise. Until then, mata yo ne!
Next up after that, we've got the community news, which is going to be done by Realm and TheZeldaAnn, our dynamic duo. And then
They sound you make them sound like superheroes in a very alternative universe like Marvel.
they are superheroes. How dare you?
Who's the villain in this situation? Would it be Cody? Would it be Eden?
It's always Cody. It's always Cody.
Wait.
Cody is always the villain.
So if Cody existed as a villain, who would he be modeled after? Would he be like a Joker? Would he be like a Thanos? Would he be like a Penguin?
I think he'd be more of a Joker because he likes to get inside your head. Maybe a mixture of Freddy Krueger and the Joker.
That is not a combination I would have associated with either, like with Cody at all. But you know what? Now I can't unsee it.
It's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah. Now I just kind of want to hear Cody try to beat both of them at once.
I do not, actually.
It honestly
I'll
would
leave
end
that
up
to you.
probably being, "Hey everybody, I mean your dreams." Which is also not even remotely an Australian accent, but that's fine.
It's fine. Anyway, yeah.
Sign-ups are open as of reporting, so if you would like to join in on the fun, just post your intent to join within the sign-up thread in the...
Go ahead.
Did you play Dead by Daylight when you were there?
I tried to play Dead by Daylight, but
Does-
their servers were having issues. Surprising no one.
Yeah, pretends to be shocked. I mean, did the game at the very least look any better than any of the trailers?
I don't know. I didn't get past the loading screen.
No!
It really was. I honestly... Oh, okay, I have to insert feelings here. I forgot
I would
about
have
this.
laughed if you actually read it.
I honestly felt insert feelings here.
That would have been awesome.
And we'll see 3 teams of randomly assigned ZUers. Team Lion P. Okay.
You can do it.
I can. I believe in myself. Those names just get me.
Oh, trust me, I'm right there with you.
Okay.
You've always been super nice to everyone here, and always willing to lend a hand. Lend someone a hand. Okay.
Oh, I'm bringing this one back, huh?
Yep.
Alright. Thank you, Annan. That.
Oh no!
God damn it. Oh, man.
Try it again. Try it again.
Ah, it was so close.
So close.
And yet so far. In the end, it doesn't really matter.
No, we're gonna get demonetized.
No, we're gonna get claimed like that. Alright, let's try that again.
Alright, so here I'm gonna need to put in... Oh, I wrote...
I think that would be... I thought that's what you meant to do. I thought it would be cute. You got...
Alright.
Like a little girl.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Realm. While we are on the subject of community news, we actually have a couple additional announcements to talk about for Zelda Universe. Kelly, we've got a cool thing happening on the forums, don't we?
We sure do, Alex. Want to tell me more about it?
Sure. Thought that was gonna be you.
Oh! Yes, I thought you were gonna talk about ZU first.
Oh.
ZU's on first. Okay, let's just.
Let's do that again.
Yeah, just do.
So we do Zeathon first?
No. Just say the forum thing again.
Okay. So I DM'd Elias asking the dates for Zeathon, and I was like, lit, tanks. And I was like, and he responded, did you just say to me, lit, tanks?
I need you to do one thing.
Yes.
I need you to do one thing for me.
Yes.
I need you to type to Elias right now, no context, did you finish?
Done. Will he know what that means?
Yes! It's something that happened at E3. And this is fine. This is gonna go in the blooper reel, so I'm gonna tell you all about it.
Oh god, I can't wait.
So, it was Elias's idea to take tequila shots.
Elias's idea?
He's the one who did it. He claims it was Amanda's idea, but he was the one who got up from the couch and went, hey, we're doing tequila shots now. That's my Elias impression. Not great.
Oh my god, that was brilliant.
So I was a little intoxicated, and lovely Mary got me a bowl of mac and cheese, and it was a godsend, this bowl of mac and cheese. So I'm eating the mac and cheese, and then as I'm halfway through this mac and cheese, she opens up the freezer and she's like, Kelly, we've got ice cream. And I'm like, I want ice cream. I'm like, Elias, can you get me the ice cream? Or I think I asked for like a spoon for the ice cream or something. I asked Elias for the ice cream, and he looks at me dead in the face and says, did you finish? I know he meant my mac and cheese, but drunken me couldn't process that correctly.
Oh my god.
So Amanda and I just burst out laughing. And like we just couldn't handle it. It was the best thing ever.
I also want to just mention his response. Bro, I haven't even started yet.
Aw, thanks. That was a really weird tone to say that with. Aw, thanks. You've been an awesome co-mod. Nope. Not a moderator. Okay. Aw, thanks. Nope, I did the same tone. Aw, thanks. You've been an awesome Okay. Alright, we're gonna get it this time. It's a single line. It's always like the tiniest little things that I end up having to do 15 times. Aw.
I can understand. Recent examples include, is there an... Okay, redo. In which one of the board's mods posts right there, always. It's like a really long sentence in my brain. I don't know why.
It feels to me like sometimes Eden is purposefully challenging me with the structures of the sentences. Like it's intentionally, like...
Torturing us.
Yeah.
He has a secret evil plan.
Yep. I'd bring a map, a pencil... I have to say 3 words. Yeah, Anne, you should go on the forums and send one of us a private message.
No. Sorry. I couldn't help it.
That was pretty... I should leave it. I don't know. I might have laughed too soon, though. I might have ruined it.